Hey, coaches. Thanks for popping in again today. Coach Twichell, Kurt Twichell with Portage Central High School, defensive coordinator, linebackers coach. This is round 3 we're doing with Coach Bandstra on his YouTube channel. So very excited to be back in it again and presenting some of our philosophies and some of the different things we've been talking about with you guys. Covered the last 2 times, went through our cover 4 system and a lot of our base stuff, one versus the run and one more geared towards the pass. This week, thought we kind of talk about not just the different pressure packages that we do to complement our cover 4 system, but maybe try to dive into a topic that's a little bit more not necessarily unique, but you can go on any clinic today and especially now find all the different zone blitzes or man pressures that you want to find. I thought we talked today about the system that we've used and has been pretty good for us. And again, it's something that somebody taught me in the past, but we call it Blitz the formation. So BTF is what we kind of use that acronym there, but BTF principles and how we build that into our system, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll take a look at some examples. I have my background again, my family up there, but I'm looking forward to going into our 7th year at Portage Central, and 3rd is the DC, and that's where we're at in the state of Michigan. Kind of talked about this in the past 4, not spending too much time on the intro stuff, but been a pretty tradition-rich program. Very fortunate to be a part of this and keep trying to build it up to where it can get to. So today we're kind of just go through these 4 basic things. Should be a pretty efficient clinic here, but talk about what is blitz formation, kind of what are the different things that go into those, and how do we build that around, why use it, of course, as opposed to maybe some old school versions of zone blitzes or man blitzes. Why are guys using the blitz formation principles in this day and age? And we'll kind of look at one of the examples I have, just walking you through how we build a very simple, easy blitz that we do, and kind of go through the terminology of how we check that based on certain indicators. And then, of course, we'll take a look at some examples, the diagrams, and the film with that. So what are these BTF principles? And what that means is that when you're blitzing the formation, it means that you are giving out the family of the blitz, and then your players are responsible for checking it onto the field based upon whatever indicator that blitz is looking for. And you can be pretty multiple with those, really as multiple as you want to get that your kids can handle. But for us, being a field boundary team, like many are, that's how we usually check it. So potential indicators that we might be looking at is maybe we want to blitz the back, maybe we want to blitz the tight end or the receiver strength, or away from those indicators. Those are all ways that we can use those verbiage to get us in what we feel is the right blitz to attack we want to attack. But how that kind of gets signaled in is the coaching staff will be responsible for sending the blitz, where it's going to, and then from there your kids will make the appropriate field or boundary call along with that. So our example that we're going to look at a little bit later on, we have a blitz that we call Texas. So that's all that gets called from the sideline in terms of the verbiage there. And the example here would be that we want to send it to the running back. Then the players find the running back on the field, and they make the Fresno or Boston call, field or boundary, based on that location, wherever that running back is. And when you use these principles, it doesn't matter whether you prefer a zone blitz or a man pressure. These are all different ways you can get you guys in the right spots to execute the blitz. But why use it? The big thing is making sure that we're maximizing the efficiency. So the big one that we look at in the pass game is attacking different protections and studying ways that guys protect. So, that for me as a defensive coordinator and kind of my evolution of growing into that role, learning the protections from the offensive line was something that came a little bit later, truthfully. And, spent a lot of time with that over the past few years, but finding different ways to attack those protections and really maximize what you're going to see, because obviously you don't know where that back is going to be set all the time. And not that you know exactly what protections you're going to get, but based on your film study and your scout work, you can get a pretty good indication of how teams are going to protect there and how you can attack that. But just kind of going into eliminating the guesswork of the offensive formation. For example, in the past, you might have called a blitz that came from the field, but really the formation, not necessarily being set into the boundary, but maybe the formation is best set up to be attacked into the boundary. And maybe they set a tight end over to the field side, and they're keeping him in and getting that at least 6-man protection there. But just eliminating that guesswork of what you're going to see, it allows your players to get into the correct call. When you package your blitzes into different families, I think that really condenses your verbiage, and It's pretty easy to word associate. It's kind of taken a lot of principles that offensive guys have been using for years now to be calling plays and brings it over to the defensive side of the ball. Try to combat some of those things that you're seeing, and tempo being one of them. So in the past, you might have seen a lot of coordinators would wait for the formation to dictate itself, and then they would call the blitz out, right? And against tempo in this era, that becomes more and more difficult. And what was the reason that a lot of offenses were going to that tempo stuff years back when Oregon kind of pioneered that a little bit? It was to get guys into their base coverage, right? And knowing what they were going to see, and it became that much easier to attack. Well, again, kind of condensing your verbiage and having your players make the check goes back to maybe getting the pen back in your hands a little bit too, right? And not letting the offense dictate just to you. And this isn't a huge reason for why exactly run it, but just as far as coaching ball and enjoying the game, it's you're building football IQ, and your players get smarter. And certainly it's stuff that you got to work. You got to teach guys the indicators and figure out the most efficient practice time to do that. But I really enjoy just the football teaching aspect of this blitz formation type stuff that we've been doing. So a couple things here. When we're building your package, kind of going through just a little bit of if you were starting from scratch as a defensive coordinator, maybe you just got hired and trying to put some stuff together in a different town, different school. But I think the big thing first and foremost, we're a big quarters team. So our blitz package, we've been about 80-20 in the past. And our blitz package is obviously going to complement our base quarters in some way. So we do a lot of cover 3, cover 1 type stuff. We do send a little bit of pressure out of some too high here and there, but we really like to try to find ways to complement what we do as far as close in the middle of the field. We're a press quarters team, so we maybe bail on our corners a little bit in some of those cover 3 zones. Just gives us different ways where even though we're not running it all the time, it's hard for an OC to queue up a shot at you or a quarters beater. So just a different way to try to create some different post-snap fronts and coverages. So Blitz we'll talk about today, you'll see that we go from being an over front to creating essentially a bear front. And then obviously rolling from 4 to 3 there. But second thing would be kind of coming up with families and just trying to organize blitzes into a couple different things. I look at it really just 3 different ways. Try not to get too complicated with it, but you can have a single edge blitz where you're attacking just one side of the formation, double edge attacking both sides, and then an interior blitz would be maybe your double A gap cross dog type stuff. But that's all we run are those 3 families of blitzes. And then of course we have different tags to get different guys involved in doing those things. But the families, our kids know what type of blitz is going to be happening based on those words that we have built in there. So once we identify those families, and I use the example for Texas as being as our one term, and then from there you tag your field and boundary words that kind of feed off of that. So our Texas blitz as we'll talk about being a centralized location in the middle of the country. We go Fresno for one side, one coast. Boston would be the opposite side of the other coast. So it's going to be checked to a different location. It's kind of the association we use for that one, just as an example. Next thing you want to do is identify your indicators. So this is not something that we won't carry everything into each week. We'll a lot of the stuff that we do, probably the most used indicator that we have is where's the back, especially against 10, 11 personnel. Where the back is typically going to be where we're sending a lot of our stuff or trying to find an answer away from the back as far as what that team is doing. But when you get into some 21 personnel and things of that nature, then you might be looking more at tight ends. You can look at receiver strength, lots of different things. But one thing just to hold yourself accountable as a coordinator, making sure that you're gapped out. You are covered down to the interior receivers that you need to be covered down to. Got to make sure that we're adjusting our formations or our blitz package both to 2x2 and 3x1. There are some adjustments in there for a lot of them. Some have a little bit more than others, but you try to keep it concise and just make sure that you're sound against what you're seeing. But an example of that would be a lot of guys obviously with a single edge pressure. Your overhang's typically going in 2x2. Well, all of a sudden he's kicked way out of the fit in that 3x1, covering down still that number 2 to the field. Well, you don't want to send that guy from width, right? You're just wasting him in that point in time. So switch to the mic in that case. But lastly, building your kill rules. So reasons that you might want to get out of your blitz. There's lots of different reasons you might want to, but one of the things that we sometimes look at with some of our blitzes is if teams put trips into the boundary and leaving a lot of space in the field, well, we're not going to roll our coverage away from the field in that case because there's typically a reason where guys are doing that. All right. Using those rules there and kind of looking at just a sample build. And again, this is our Texas blitz. Texas is America's Blitz, NCAA, and we move the line, send a guy off the edge, and we feel like it's America's Blitz for a reason. Everybody runs it. So we're just kind of talking about how we set this up and using just that as an example. We're a quarters team, right? So we're going to roll to single high, get single edge pressure with line movement. So kind of got it drawn up there against 2x2 with the back set to the field. Kind of mentioned that earlier. That's the word association there being locations. Locations were moving, right? And then so Fresno coming from the field and Boston coming from the boundary. When we say that, so Fresno, for example, would be a slant from the field. So really the slant is moving towards the boundary. The blitz is coming from the field, if that makes sense. So something we start off teaching our players with, and the initial teaching get a little, that 1 point right there kind of gets them for a second, but ends up being okay. All right. Kind of look at it a little bit. Why do we like to run this one? And again, I'm not getting too crazy on this blitz, guys. There's tons of resources out there, but just ways that we use it, and the running back being one of the bigger indicators that we're looking at here. But when we send this blitz to the back, especially against this 10 and 11 personnel, obviously slide protection is going to be the one that you're really attacking there, as far as potentially full sliding, away from the back and getting the back up on the edge, and maybe getting a one-on-one with one of your better pass rushers is a way you can attack that. Half slide as well. Show some examples on film of getting inside leverage on those guards and tackles and hitting inside gaps. But sprint out, obviously, you're going to see that sprint out happen to the side of the back. It's just a way to attack it right now and try to force a throw and get that guy to step up and take that away from him. But, for us, whenever you're moving your line, you are going to be changing up the reads that guys are doing as far as zone reads, midline, things of that nature. And, for that right there, just in our basic over front, our quarters defense, our defensive end, our 9 technique is holding the quarterback, and we're going to try to force a dive for the most part there based on where we set our strength. But in this, right, he'd be scraping inside and slanting down in there, kind of face reading that guard and squeezing him down. So he'd be taking the dive in that case, and we'd be wanting the quarterback to keep it. So we use that as a way, just as a change up to our normal base rules, is a way we like to attack that. But next one being, the RPO picture. Obviously, if you're getting some sort of RPO to the back, which is where the majority of those are going. Right now, there's different ways that guys do it, but keeping it pretty simple in the RPO game, you see a lot of those reads going to that overhang to the side of the back. So right there, whether you're getting a bubble, you're getting a slant, whatever it might be, now your overhang's coming. So in theory, they're pulling that and throwing, and we're dropping down right into it right now. So just a different way, whether you're in cover 3 or cover 1, different way right now to get a different guy who's not being read down into that picture and try to force a bad read. Right, and then gap runs going away, obviously, just with the block back and pullers and all that, trying to slant that up and force that ball to cut back and right into another slanter. So lots of reasons we like that, but kind of going away from the back, I'll hit it real quick. In outside zone, if you were seeing a team that was hitting the edge pretty quickly, and outside zone's all based on horizontal displacement, planting your foot and getting up the field. And when you slant into that, when you slant into outside zone, it kind of takes away that by nature. So something that we really started doing a year ago, and we saw outside zone and had some good success with it. But that would be a reason we use that there. And then power read, obviously, that hits that inverted look as far as the back coming across the face. But this would be one of the bigger ones, guys, and the reasons why you use it in terms of RPO game. This is what you're seeing, is that if you are slanting away from the back, in theory, right, the blitz is coming away from the back, so slanting to the back, I should say. Okay, whenever we're slanting to the back, in theory, you're pushing that front side backer out of that fit, out of the RPO fit. And in 2x2, right, your overhang there typically is already kind of out of that fit and cover down a little bit more in quarters. But right there, he truly does not have a gap, and you can really push. You can let him hang in his alignment and really try to protect that RPO. And we'll see an example out of that with 3x1 as well when we get there. But all right. Kind of mow through this. We could go to the tight ends up there. I drew 2x2, 11 personnel tight end in the boundary. A lot of front side zone or man schemes would be a reason that we're setting it there. But, just kind of going through this, guys. I'm not trying to talk necessarily about why this blitz is great, but just how we would set it up and what would be the reasons that we kind of go through this. But if I go back real quick to this right here, it's all based on what you're seeing. And in your scout work, the way that you have identified how teams are attacking in certain formations or to certain sets, 2x2, 3x1, 10 personnel, 11 personnel, you can get a pretty good picture as to what you're going to see. And then your indicators, that's where it comes into your kind of the art form of you as a coach. You can decide how you want to attack those based on these different blitzes that you're calling. As far as blitzing the formation, it puts you in the correct call against those things that other teams like, right? Okay, so away from the H, front side gap schemes. All right, there we go. 3x1 adjustments. That's kind of what I alluded to a little bit earlier. If we're bumping all the way out to 3x1 and taking that nickel completely out of the fit, and we're trying to get an edge pressure there, say we're blitzing the back in this case, right? Well, you're blitzing from width, and what you're doing, you're not just compromising your disguise as far as, you know, really trying to hold your water and present the same too high picture, same too high shell. Well, now you're compromising your efficiency as well. That's a long way for that guy to go to try to get home. Then you got to move other guys to adjust for his cover down. So that, you know, one example, I know this isn't setting the world on fire as far as guys doing this, but, you know, that would call for subbing out your Mike to be your edge blitzer and keeping that nickel kind of out of the fit. But still rolling to the indicator in that case, still going to the running back the way that we've got it set up right here. Free safety drops down. Whenever we see 3x1, we coach up, our safeties know that they're going to be dropping down and replacing a linebacker in some form or fashion. 3x1. Well, this is our cover 3 zone blitz version of this, but if it was man, they'd be dropping down. He'd be in that safety, be taking that number 3, overhand be taking number 2, and corner on number 1. The high hole player being that boundary safety. One thing that we like to do, and even if we're in a zone blitz, sometimes away from 3x1, we'll lock that boundary corner up on that single receiver, kind of based on ability and skill level. What you're seeing, you know, as far as is the team setting their best X receiver to the boundary there. That could be, you know, some different reasons why we get into different things, but we'll do that every now and then with rolling away from that single side receiver. But in this case, gets a little bit more something to think about it as you're building your structures with 3x1. Okay, if I'm blitzing away from the back in this case, let's say that I wanted to do that for whatever reason might have been. All right, got to account for that front side A gap. Okay, and this movement is a way for you to push that Mike out of the fit a little bit more and achieve a full cover down to that number 3 receiver. So if we count up the gaps in there with the 6 gaps up front, right, we've got the interior 5 boxes, and then you got to account for that 6th gap with that safety dropping down, right? So I drew it up just kind of the base way that we would run it to start, but we have some different ways to account for this. You know, that linebacker there's not going to just run out and wrap into the C gap immediately. It's based on what he sees. He gets that drop back. We're getting movement post snap right down towards the center's hip as far as being on the boundary side. Okay, so he's not running super wide, right? But that he would be a late add-on to the rush there as far as the pass game goes. And we've done it too, where we can replace that linebacker with the DB. We do run a corner blitz. I don't think I didn't post the film on it tonight, but you know, we'll sub in that the corner there to the boundary, especially when the ball's on the hash. That's something that we can do, and that's a different way where you can account for whether it's 20 personnel, something to that effect, and maybe you're seeing that bang 8 RPO to the boundary, right, where they're reading that safety. Well, now the safety stays high, and then nobody's looking at that corner coming in as that 6th add-on guy to the gap. So that's a different way too that we can account for some stuff as far as the RPO game goes and get guys in there, but when you're blitzing from the boundary in 3x1, right, you got to account for that one of the front side gaps in some way. In this case, it's the A gap based on how that's moving out of our over front right there. Okay. Different reasons might kill the blitz. I just drew up in this example here, if we're in our Texas blitz, right, and let's say we were going to the back and they put everything to the boundary in this case. So our kids are calling Boston on the field based on that. Okay, well, a lot of the times we coach them up during the week that when we see that 3x1 into the boundary, right, there's a reason why they're putting that X receiver all the way out to the field for the most part, okay, most of the time. So in this case, that's not something that we want to be in, and we'll kill that blitz. We'll get out of it. And there's different reasons you can get out of different blitzes, but this would be one of them for us is formation of the boundary 3x1. Okay, we'll check to just our base stuff, our base midpoints check to the boundary and keep our front side safety over the top of that. Right, lots of space to the field in that case. Okay, hop into some film here real quick. Not have a ton of stuff we're going to look at. We'll look at that Texas blitz just a little bit, and then some other blitz formation principles that we have. I'm not going to get into talking about how exactly we run all of our stuff, but just different ways that you'll see. I'll walk you through what we're looking at in certain cases here. In this first clip here, we do have Texas called from the sideline, right? So Texas to the running back is the call. You'll see in this case that they're aligned in a pistol set. This is something new for them that they didn't do. But we tell our kids that, 2 by 2, we're going to roll to the boundary most of the time if you get that balanced look right there. Okay, so this is going to be coming from the boundary. We're going to get this kid, okay, off the edge on a missile spill path. We get movement from the line up front, okay, and we'll get a wrap around from this one here, okay. You're going. I'll pause it to kind of show you the effect here. But what ends up happening, okay, it looks like it is some form of half slide or man-to-man protection, right? You get this back stepping up here, okay, and this guard, we'll see it better in the end zone film. All right, we end up getting a free hitter on the A gap here, and okay, they had the perfect routing to cover 3. That's fine. Okay, good delivery, got a hit on the cue, 5-yard gain. Okay, is what it is in that case. But just kind of showing you from the boundary here. We'll take a look at the protection. Okay, our kids are cheating it right now. This kid's getting all the way over. This is a fast kid for us. This 3 technique right there. All right, he cheated. He's pretty obviously he's coming right here. And no big deal. But you'll see this jersey number 2 right here, shoots across into the B gap. Okay, get the wrap over here, and they leave the A gap kid unblocked. Okay, worst kid to leave unblocked. Boom. They get a hit on the cue. All right, minimal gain, zone pressure, keeping guys in front, getting the football down. Okay, here we go. This is a 3-by-1 look. Okay, and we are going to the back again in this case. Okay, so the call from the field again was Texas to the running back through our various signals and ways of getting that in. Okay, to the running back. So we're going to get the same exact look. Okay, you're going to get the wrap around here. One thing when we're running zone pressures, guys, the way that we coach is up, our corners both do this wrong. So if you have a single receiver, the way we coach it up is you bail post-snap. You got a single receiver, bail post-snap because you can run with him, right? When you have 2 removed and in cover 3, trying to get over the top, trying to overlap that number 2 receiver, that's when this one should be bailing pre-snap so you can get his eyes back in on that seam route coming through. Okay, still going to get a reroute, obviously, off the seam with that number 2. Okay. But we see we got guys over the top. We got post coverage. We've got things happening in the backfield there. A ball gets overthrown. We call for interference. All right. Put one pinky on the guy. And no big deal, whatever. But we'll kind of look at how this distributes again. Okay. You do get gap protection in this case. We knew that they were a big gap protection team as far as some of the power reaches up they were running to the field. Okay, so we were still comfortable with blitzing the back in this case and trying to get guys over top of the down blocks. And in this case, if he holds on to this ball for just a split second longer, right, we have backside pressure, boundary linebackers unblocked. Blitzing the formation right there in that case to the back gave us a push. Okay. Same blitz you guys were in cover 1 this time. So you can play zone or man, right? You can play zone or man depending on the type of guys that you got. Okay, but we'll see here that same type of thing running kind of slide, half slide protection, hard to tell. Looks like there was a mess up here, but obviously they did not get that B gap kid blocked up. All right, back takes the edge. Okay, end up getting a free hitter. Our wrestler kid eventually wrestles them down to the ground. Right, we'll look at the end zone view here and take a look at that. But again, just kind of getting across the face. Okay, blitzing the back again to attack that slide protection. Okay, if I'm coming from the field in this case, if I call just a field blitz without checking the blitz based on formation at all, right, then they could be sliding into that and they'd have the numbers in theory. All right. Okay, another zone blitz here with the indicator being, in this case, this team was a kind of a flex T type team, a flex bone type formation, really running wing T principle stuff. Okay, so this time we were checking it to the tight end, okay, to the 3-man surface. I got a tight end wing here. All right, if we ran it from the boundary, I'm not saying it wouldn't be sound, but just as far as attacking what they do and just knowing that they were running a lot of their stuff, this 3-man surface, okay, we are getting everybody down, okay, and this is really our safety coming up. Okay, we are not afraid to use our safety with some of these heavy personnel formations in our blitzes. Get the spill on the inside half right there from our edge guy. Okay, right into an unblocked safety coming down. Okay. All right, this one's same team from a couple of clips ago. This again was blitzing the back, and we knew that this one here, This was really a 20 or 11 personnel type set from. They typically didn't have the second back in the backfield like this. Okay, but blitzing their main back, in this case, being a gap scheme. They come into the field here in this case. All right. Great get off here. You get the puller from the right guard. Okay, one over. And one thing that this backer should not be doing in this case, we do teach him to read out of the pull. So he should be getting over and overlapping this as normal, right? He kind of just chokes his motor, not doing anything, but we end up getting an unblocked guy on the slant right there to get in the backfield and get a TFL. Just moving bodies. Look at it from the end zone view. Okay, went on a permanent here. This is out of, in theory, a bear front, right? So we're moving to the A-gap. Okay, this one's shooting all the way to the A-gap. Center attaches on. Guards pulling. Nobody left for this backside boundary kid. In this case, how that worked out. Down on the hip right now, unblocked. Right, how would you block that kid? It would have been that right tackle trying to scoop him, right? As far as that tight front look goes, but hey, he's getting mashed down by this defensive end coming. And watch this DN just mash him down, right? He's off balance, off his rocker. Boom. Okay, that's awesome. All right. This team, you see 2x2 flex bone. Okay, the way that we had this drawn up during the week, we wasn't necessarily to a specific indicator a lot of the time. Okay, I think we were looking at if they were in trips and kind of 3-man surfaces is what we were trying to go to. But in this case, 2x2, the rule for that week was to go to the boundary, right? And with them being a veer team in this case, line movement changes our reads. Right. Normally, our defensive end at the top and our base front would be holding that quarterback, making sure he hands that football off. And now he's down on the dive right now. Kid did not give it, gets hit, forces a pitch under duress. And this is our boundary safety who's stemmed down. He picks it up and houses it. Okay, going from the end zone view. Again, normally this kid right there is the read. Is going to be given that give look, right? But now he's taking the dive right now. Should be tackling that dive, but the quarterback ends up keeping it because he'd been a give key most of the time. Okay, quarterback ends up keeping it. Okay, our linebacker does get plugged up and it don't end up executing this perfectly. Okay, really, this kid should have been down in one more gap inside. Okay, linebacker gets blocked down on, but a little bit of a mix-up, a little bit of a mash-up as far as what we had been giving them, what they'd seen on film. Okay. Forces a bad pitch, and obviously we take advantage of that. All right. Same team, same look, boundary. Okay, ripping across the face. Okay, there's a give on a counter insert. All right. If you got some guys that can move them. Right. Okay, but again, the indicator in this case, just going back to this, when we got 2x2, it was always just called the boundary. And could you call a boundary blitz and be sound even if they were in some sort of 3x1 look? Yes. Okay, yes. But in this case, just the way our rules were set up, okay, just an example there of just a base look as far as a balanced 2x2 formation. Okay, same thing here. All right. Get one across. Here comes your dive to the opposite to the field side, slam right into it. Okay, good stuff. All right, we'll try to get to another blitz here. All right, here we go. Receiver strength. So now finally see Fresno, top of the screen there. Okay, Fresno's coming. It's the exact same thing as Boston, now just hitting from the field. So we're going to get a drop down from this safety. Okay, get a roll back, get bails out of our corners. We'll be good to go. All right. Here comes this one here where we should be slanting the line this way. Okay, one off the edge. All right. Trying to set up a screen, eventually get a sack, but guys who are unblocked. Okay, was it because of the blitz they're unblocked? No. Okay, no, I'm not saying that at all. Right, just showing different ways here as far as the indicator being receiver strength this week. Okay, we get 2x1. That's why we come from the field in this case. We taught our kids that during the week. Again, I just made the one call from the sideline, Texas, and our kids knew where to go from that. Okay. Mentioned earlier, too, that against some of the bigger personnel teams, we will not be afraid to get our safeties involved in the run fit. This is 21 personnel. Okay, big fullback right there, D2 player, good player. Okay, another D2 running back, could have been a D1 kid. Had to do some different things to try to move our guys around so we can win some battles, try to manufacture some W's up front, just as far as moving around. So we're slanting. In this case, here comes the blitz. Here's our safety getting involved in it, right? So we're going to roll back to cover 3. Okay. But we get guys crossing the faces here, some smaller dudes. Right? It doesn't matter if you're D1 or D2 or whatever. Lose battles up front. Okay, just a way to manufacture some stuff there. But again, with the idea just being, right, I could call a boundary blitz if I really wanted to. Would it impact the way that they ran the stuff that they wanted to run out of these sets with an offset fullback and a tight end, right? So checking it on the field, okay, they knew that this is where they wanted to go. Right? I gave one call from the sideline. They checked it at the field call in that case based on the 3-man surface and the fullback presenting himself there. Okay, 3-man surface was the indicator, fullback was an extra. Okay, here it is again. Right, same exact indicator, different type of blitz a little bit. In this case, we were twisting. Okay, getting a little bit of one of our tags here, but here's our safety down again. Okay, and we were inside out with these two guys folding. Okay, just knowing that they were going to be heavy run games, that tight end and that offset wing. Just knowing we could influence something. End up missing a tackle, but we got bodies there for pursuing it and no gain. All right. Okay, getting away from that Texas blitz. This is our double A gap blitz. And this is showing you for these rules here for our double A gap. Most of the time, the indicator is going to be receiver strength, right, for different reasons. But in this case, we see 2x2, so a balance set. We know that we're going to roll to the boundary. Okay, so our boundary kid is down, field kid's down, back, third. Okay, and we're sending 6. So those defensive backs should be playing eyes technique on the quarterback, meaning sprinting into the vision. Okay, hot eyes technique, whatever you might have heard it before. And we're sending 6. DN should be wide. Okay, and they'd be peeling with the back if he came out. Okay, edge pressure up the pipe, force the roll, the escape. Okay, we're just showing you there the indicator in this case, right? The roll is not predetermined. It is going to be the 2x2. So checking on the field. A little cross dogs there. How we ran that one. Okay. Here we go. Same blitz. Okay. Again, now it is receiver strength based. Receiver strength. So now we are going to be rolling to the field 2 3x1. So here's our nickel kid. Here's our field safety drop down on top of that number 3. Right? Our boundary safety is rolling back. And again, right here, the way that we had coached up this week is we were just going to play man-to-man on this boundary kid over here. Okay. Should have edge pressure, double A gap. This is 3rd and 9. This is a 1-point game against our rival a couple of years ago. 3rd down, 3rd and long, get a stop, get off the field, get a W, take the trophy home with the bus. Huge play. Okay, kind of mixed up the protections in the backfield there. And knew that they were a big, just kind of big on big with the back inserting up, right? But the cross action there just kind of confuses the center, okay? Confuses the up back, end up getting both of those guys in on the big sack. And one of my favorite plays as a defensive coordinator, as a coach, wherever I've been. But you can see this is the boundary safety rotating MOF, okay? Understanding that the way that we want to leverage these routes and things that we were seeing, we were rolling to receiver strength, to the field. If you roll the boundary, you know, it's going to look a little bit different, right? Okay. Kind of a shorter one there tonight, and it's good. Been talking my ear off a lot with a lot of the stuff that we do. But again, guys, this is about 20% of our call sheet, okay? About 20% of our call sheet. So we don't get too crazy with all the different blitzes we do. I just showed you 2 of the main ones, and then we got a double edge one that we do, and then it's our language system is all based upon that those indicators we can give our kids based on game plan. Sometimes that blitz that I showed you, the double A gap, right? That might be going to, for example, might might be rolling to the tight end when we see 11 personnel would be the indicator for a specific week, right? Against that team there with some of the 10, 11 personnel stuff that they were doing, we want to go to receiver strength. But building your system off of these rules and not doing it the way necessarily that you don't have to do the exact same way that I just showed you, but having different ways to get into the right call is what blitzing the formation allows you to do, right? Grouping your blitzes by families, a lot of the ways that those OCs are grouping up their plays and packaging their stuff. Well, we can do the same on the defensive side of the ball, right? And try to reduce that teaching time, try to maximize our effectiveness and continuity with the concepts that you are providing your kids, right? But then as a coordinator too, drawing it out, holding yourself accountable to the different adjustments that you got to make to different sets. Do you have all your gaps accounted for? That double A gap pressure a couple of years ago, just as an example, we had kind of carried into a week and team had not run 12 personnel on film and trying to run it against some of the stuff they were doing there, and found out we were a little bit of a gap short when they were running some of their C gap stuff, right? So I got to draw the stuff out and be accountable to it. But adjustments for 3x1 or formation of the boundary, do you have different reasons or different ways that you can get into your kill call and either check to something else or check back to your base? But blitzing the formation, guys, again, it's not something that I came up with. It's something I learned from somebody else, and just a different way to make sure that you're maximizing the effectiveness of what we're doing. And system that we really like that we've enjoyed kind of installing and teaching our kids the game of football is one of the reasons I put up there for why we really like to do some of this stuff. And it's kind of if it's not the future, it's already the present, right, of defensive football. But that's how we do it. Nothing crazy. If you got more questions on the specific stuff that we do blitz wise, or want to talk about rules and all that, I mean, it's nothing that anybody else doesn't run. We're a big cover 4 team. You can see there I got some clinics that I've done with Coach Bandstra over the past few weeks, and got one with the Michigan High School Coach Association that I did on linebacker play. So been a pretty busy quarantine season as far as putting stuff out there. But first time we really talked about some of our blitz stuff to complement some of the other stuff that we do. Again, guys, if you ever need anything and have questions, I'm an open book. I learned it all from somebody else, so I'm passing it right along. But appreciate you. Hope everybody's doing well and kind of moving towards hopefully getting back in contact with our kids a little bit more. So we'll see. Everybody hang in there and we'll catch up. Take care.